That is one of the biggest mistakes. Doctors wait too late to sell, not realizing that most people that are going to pay you the max are going to want you to stay for 3 to 5 years. And if you want to stay longer, that's better. But they're going to want you to stay for 3 to 5 years. And they're going to want you to maintain the current collections that are at that practice. So your production, your collection as a doctor, it can't drop. Yeah. So a misconception is like, I'm about to sell my practice. I'm going to put the pedal to the metal. Worst mistake you could ever make. Worst. Because you're going to need to.
AI isn't just changing dentistry. It's completely redefining it. Tune into Bite-Size Podcast, the Dental AI and Tech Podcast, and stay ahead of the curve.
Welcome back to another episode of the Bite-Size Podcast. Most dentists spend like 30 years building a practice and about 30 days preparing to sell it. And almost every single one of these doctors, or every single one of them, walks into the process of selling their practice believing a number in their head that nobody in the room is willing to defend. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on why dental practice valuations are so often wrong, who benefits when they are, and what the most sophisticated buyers in the industry actually look at when they decide what your life's work is worth. So I want to introduce Elijah Desmond. What's up, Elijah? How are you?
I'm doing good, Adrian. Thank you so much for having me. How are you?
Yeah. So my guest, Elijah Desmond, has built quite an incredible disruptive practice sales transition process. And we're going to dig deep into it. Elijah spent years building one of the largest relationship networks in dentistry through his events. We'll have you talk about this a little briefly, but through an event organization. And through speaking, which you do a ton of speaking, and communities that you're involved with. You even have a mastermind group that I've heard about from several other marketing companies that I kind of connect with. And after all of that, you launched the dental pitch brokerage, which is what we're going to be talking about today. And in just a few years, he's developed a process that's fundamentally changed how dental practices are bought and sold, replacing internal guesswork with third-party forensic accounting and bringing institutional buyers to the table in a way that accelerates deals and eliminates the conflict that kills most transactions. So he currently manages over 25 active representation agreements and projects, closing 40 or more deals a year. Elijah, and welcome to the show. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you. Excited to be here. And I'm excited to pull the curtain back, like you said, and just reveal the untold secrets of the industry and continue to disrupt in a very positive way for both the buyers and the sellers.
Yeah, I think this is like such an important and curious topic. I mean, I've been in dentistry for 15 years and I still don't understand this whole process. So talking to you has been really, really helpful to help me kind of like pull back the curtain, so to speak. So before you were selling and helping practices be bought and sold, you built something totally different. And I actually came to one of your events a few years ago. Walk us through kind of your journey in dentistry and some of these other projects and companies that you've built.
Man, journey in dentistry. Let me start by just saying this, and this is important for anybody that's just tuning in at the very beginning. My journey has been built on serving and serving others, and without the expectation of getting anything back. That was my journey since the beginning. I just didn't know that I would end up in this space that I'm in, owning a sell-side national brokerage firm. But my service, my reputation, and everything I've built has been about giving, collaborating, connecting, and bringing people together. And so I think that that's so important to, I think, the prequel or the pre-story of actually what happened. But look, originally I'm from Ohio. I graduated from the Ohio State University.
Okay, go Buckeyes.
And I graduated as a dental hygienist first, right? So understanding.
Wait, didn't you play football though? I thought you played football.
I did not, but that's a whole other story. If you want to, we can go there.
But did you almost break your? I thought you almost broke your neck playing football or something like that.
I did.
Was that in
I played
college?
football. I played football. Nope. I played football in high school, and I wrestled in high
Okay.
school. And I was being recruited by a D1 school, specifically the team up north, which is known as the Ohio State, not the Ohio State University, but the Ohio State's competitor, Michigan. And that
Gotcha.
story didn't pan out the way it was supposed to due to a neck issue.
Okay.
But going back to high school, I was raised around a dentist. My uncle's a dentist. My aunt's a hygienist. My mom was office manager for 25 years. And I knew that I needed to be in dentistry. But I didn't know what was going to end up being my actual journey. And, to skip through everything, basically, I ended up starting many different companies in dentistry. And I went through failure myself first. Let's talk about that. I scraped my knees, and I learned the hard way. I did not go to college to get my MBA and to understand business, even though I had an amazing mentor, which is my father, who recently passed.
Sorry to hear that.
Thank you. I got I'm going to call it, I learned the hard way on most things, trial and error. But I'll tell you one thing that I was always good at. And one thing that I started with was the giving hand, just the serving hand, the connection hand. And so even though I was, doing businesses, and some of them were extremely successful, others weren't, I learned a lot along the journey. And I ended up selling and successfully exiting 7 different businesses. And to not get into too much of those businesses in this conversation, I was in the business of putting people on stage. And, I owned and sold successfully Smiles at Sea, which was a dental conference on a cruise ship that I am still going on, by the way, for at least 5 years. And that business allowed me to meet many of the who's who in dentistry. These are the people that are the dental celebrities, the people that are educating others, even like yourself, Adrian. When you get on stage and you're a powerful speaker, your stuff, what happens is that people listen and then they execute because they're able to grow, right? I got a chance to firsthand learn from and listen to so many speakers, and I will tell you hundreds of speakers that I got to learn from. But what's even better than when someone is speaking is what happens after they speak. It's the private dinners and the networking session, and really getting to know the person outside that maybe main skill set they're known for, understanding their families, understanding where they came from, understanding what they're good at, bad at, need help at, what their love language is. And that was what really propelled my entire career, because if you hang around a lot of the people who know people, and you're around those and you're sitting at the right table, you just get connected to everything in the pulse of dentistry. So, I dealt with a situation in which I was basically forced to give this answer that I hated. And that was, somebody would ask me, call him a dental famous speaker. They would say, "Hey, Elijah, I would love to speak on your cruise ship." And I'm like, oh boy, I knew it was coming eventually. Right. And I'd have to tell them, unfortunately, we only have 8 speakers. There's only so many rooms, and we're booked out for a couple of years.
Yeah.
And so it made me feel like crap, right? It made me feel like crap having to tell them that. I'm a people pleaser. I like to make people happy. And when you tell somebody who's used to be told yes, there's a wait list or there's a long line, and they're your friend, you feel bad. So created something called Dentistry's Got Talent. Dentistry's Got Talent is where I would have up to 50 speakers speaking for 10 minutes at a time in an out-of-the-box format, kind of like TED Talk and American Idol. And this will come full circle, by the way, on selling practices. But basically, the meeting planners, I would bring 15 to 40 different meeting planners, put them in the seat, and I would have the speakers speak to those meeting planners in a competition. Somebody would win a championship belt. It was a super fun time. And I put over 400 speakers throughout the industry on different stages. And the winner of that event would get to speak on the cruise. So
nice.
Yeah. So I got
at least you gave the speakers the opportunity to get in front of meeting planners. I mean, so there was a huge opportunity there either way, whether they won or lost, doesn't matter.
Exactly. And I was able to live stream it. So the people that were watching got over, or that were speaking got over 100,000 views at many of my meetings. So there's no
Nice.
audience in dentistry that's really that big, right? And so it
No.
was a win-win situation.
So you're not still doing that, are you? Are you still doing Dentistry's Got Talent?
I am not. I sold that business with Dentistry's Got Talent. I will be in the I'll be in the building for that, but like, you know, I'm not. I don't own it anymore. So
Okay, gotcha.
So yeah, that's how that is. Dr. Devin Geeson, who's the new CEO, is still running it, and I'll be there.
I just met Devin 2 weeks ago in San Antonio. Super, super cool lady. So yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And if you want to get into speaking, like that's who to talk to because she has the audience. And so anyways, I said, okay, well, that was out of the box type of event, and it worked really good. And I'm like, I'm going to create. So I met the CEO of the Grammy Awards, and he inspired me to create something like that for dentistry. So I created something called the Dental Socials. And the Dental Socials was essentially like the top 5 most influential people in 10 different categories. So like Instagram, LinkedIn, Facebook, TikTok, YouTube, and then top 5 most influential people in the DSO space, in podcasting, authors, consultants, and then meeting planners. And so anyhow, I brought those people together in one room. It was a red carpet event, and somebody would end up winning the award out of the 5. So I was still connected, right?
Same idea, same concept, just a different goal there. Okay.
Yeah, I call it remixing ideas. So the things that I do, like cruises already existed, right? I just brought them into dentistry, right? American Idol and TED Talk, it existed and it was extremely famous. I'm like, well, if it's famous outside of dentistry, if I bring it inside, voila, right?
Yeah.
I decided I would go to Scratch Academy to become a DJ in dentistry. 2.5 years of Scratch Academy.
I don't know what that is. Scratch Academy?
Yeah, so Scratch Academy is
like scratching like on a record, right?
Yep, scratching on the record. And you know, essentially I wanted to be a DJ. So I decided I would go and I would DJ. So look, you know, just this year I'll be in 8 countries in like 25 cities, all dental conferences, making people laugh, dance, sing, scream, jump, and throw in a big event so people can connect. That's what it's all about. Been about the whole time. And then lastly, there was this amazing show called Shark Tank. Did I love me some Shark Tank? And I'm like, man, if this existed in dentistry, I think it would be a slam dunk. So I created it in 2021 rather. And that event was what led to what Dental Pitch is today. But Shark Tank, essentially, I would have over 100 companies pitch me their business.
Okay.
And I would pick like 7 to 10. The first one was 25. I did that wrong. But I'd pick 7 to 10.
Okay.
And then I'd have about 60 to 80 strategic investors that would want to be on my show. Now, mind you, I ran this right after Dentistry's Got Talent, so we had 100,000 some views.
Got it.
So the strategic investors, I would pick 8 of them. And we're talking about big time investors like CEO of Heartland Dental, you know, CEO of Benco, you know, Darby, major organizations. And they would, you know, basically raise between 300,000 and 3 million and per company. And I'm like, man, we're at the wrong end of this. This is all startups. What if I took the exact same format, right? But I didn't stream it live because no dentist wants to be told that they're selling their practice, right?
Right.
It had to be private. But what if I put like 10 buyers in a room and I'd had a walk-on song and then the seller would get on the stage and be interviewed by me, and then it would be like almost like a bidding war. And then, but what happens is actually it streamlines the process. It makes it short. And by the way, this is not the only way we sell dental practices, but it's how we disrupted the space.
Right.
And so we basically, you know, have them come into the room and the buyers ask them questions that are non-financial. And then the sellers just answer the questions. And then we line them up with maybe up to 10 one-on-one meetings in one day. And we crunch the process down and you get to meet face-to-face immediately. So that's how we got started. And it's all out of the box thinking. None of this stuff. I mean, I was looked at like I was crazy. Oh my God, fun
for sure.
in dentistry.
No way.
Yep.
That's awesome. So what you've built, we'll talk more about what you built, but I'd like to know, like, because I don't know a lot about practice sales. Just
Yep.
describe to me like the current traditional practice sales process. Who's involved, who gets paid what, and then we kind of dig into that a little bit.
Yeah. So let me tell you before me, if that's okay. Like the current, as in like this is our third year on this, right?
Yeah.
But the current before me, and then like the kind of the process, who gets paid what. So, prior to us stepping in the ring, you don't put a bunch of buyers in one room, and you do not meet them on your first date. You don't.
Okay.
There's a lot of work that gets put into the the matchmaking process, and then about, we'll call it 50% or 75% in the process, then the doctor and the buyer meet.
Got it.
And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense, because if it's not the right cultural fit, and we don't have complete alignment on values and clinical dentistry, and I know that as a hygienist, right? There's just absolutely no way. It is wasting everybody's time. We need to cut to the chase and see if this is a match very early on, and then we look at the data and the numbers and most importantly the terms. So prior to us, the event process didn't happen. Now I'm also going to go ahead and say some things that most people won't say, and I'm sure I can get crucified for this stuff, but that's what makes a podcast good, right?
That's right.
So,
let's be controversial. Please.
So here's the truth of the matter, and how do I know is because I'm in the space. Okay. So right now we have 95 very strong relationships with buyers. Okay.
You do currently, your company.
We currently, and the buyers are like institutionalized buyers. They're DSOs, they're private equity, they're PE, they're small groups, emerging groups, mid-sized groups. We also have hundreds of private practice dentists, but we're going to focus on that core for now.
Okay.
Understand the relationship we have. We have multiple different contracts. We have an NDA, number one. That means that it's a non-disclosure agreement for dentists that are watching. You don't have to worry about telling these buyers that you're selling and getting back to your team, because ultimately majority do not want the team to know until the deal is done or almost close. Okay. So what happens is when we reach out to them with your information, your confidential information, they will not, they cannot, they legally cannot say a word. That's NDA. Number two, we have a non-solicitation agreement. What is a non-solicitation agreement? It means that if we introduce your practice to a buyer, they can't go around you and
go back,
not buy your practice. Well, they can go around you and hire one of your team members. They can't solicit one of the team members. Right. So you don't have to worry about them snatching your team for people in their office. The next thing we have is a non-circumvent. That means if we introduce you to one of these buyers, the buyers can't go around us and try to make a deal without us, essentially.
Right.
Now, let me tell you the disruptive part that I'm about to reveal. Okay. Here's what we do not have. We do not have a referral agreement with our buyers. Okay. What does that mean? In a traditional brokerage space, brokers will make potentially an upfront fee. Some of them charge an upfront fee between $10,000 and $50,000. We don't charge anything, by the way. Then on the end of that, there is a 6 to 12% fee of the total sale. Okay. Now don't let 6 to 12% overwhelm you, because a broker, a traditional or a non-traditional broker, will typically increase the value of your practice as low as 20 to 40% and get you the best terms and protect you. But here's the most important piece. The buyers all want to buy as many practices of the right practices as possible. Okay. So what do? Many, not all, many offer an incentive to do that. If you send them a new practice or a practice that they didn't have, a lot of them will pay between 1% and 5% of the total amount that the practice is sold for, of the sale. Okay.
That's now, a referral fee. That's a referral fee.
It's basically a referral fee that is paid from the buyer. And I'm going to tell you how many of those agreements we have. 0. We will never have 0. We don't have 0. And it's very important to understand this. And if you're going to work with a broker, just ask them this question because it is important. It is 100% legal. It's not illegal. It is legal, but it is a gray area. Let me explain.
Yeah, why? I'm curious.
Here's the gray area. If I'm a sell side broker, I represent the seller. I will go to battle for the seller, my team and I. Okay. Now, if I'm matching it with a buyer, do you think that if a buyer's paying me 5%, this buyer is, and this other buyer is paying me 2%, which buyer do I want you to go with?
Oh yeah, the one you're going to get paid more for.
The one you're going to get paid more from.
Yeah.
And so that to me is an internal conflict. I don't think that it should be allowed personally, but it is allowed. It is currently legal, but we will never take that money. And it definitely separates us.
Is that information, if a seller asks their broker for the fee schedule for who they're potentially selling to, do they have to tell the seller that the amount?
No.
So it's a hidden kind of like, I totally understand where the problem arises, right?
Yeah, it's a backdoor situation.
It's not in the seller's best situation. Like puts them in a disadvantage.
Right, and it could and it couldn't, one of the two. But here's what happens: is let's just make an example. A seller comes to us with a practice is $3 million, okay? And don't hold me to this number, but let's just say the representation agreement we send them over is at 10%, okay?
Okay.
Well, what happens is they're going to come back to me and say, hey, there's another national brokerage firm that offered me the same offer at 8%. All right.
Okay.
Here's what they don't understand. They don't understand the numbers because that broker may be getting 2%
on the back
from the
end.
buyer on the back end, or 3% or 4% or 5%. And it puts me at an extreme disadvantage, essentially. Now,
and you don't have to reveal that information. The seller isn't there's no legal responsibility to share the back end commission with the buyer to the seller. That's all hidden.
So not that I am aware of a legal, but we don't mess with it, so we don't have to understand the law and that. You know what I mean? So, but to my understanding, I am sure that it is not disclosed majority of the time.
Gotcha.
Now, the least they can do is tell you if you ask. So I'm saying ask the right questions.
Yeah. The buyer, are you getting compensated or some kind of commission from the buyer in this transaction?
Exactly. And if they know that and it's transparent, it's a little bit better. So it's a little bit better, right? So now let's move on with the fact that since we do not charge them anything, what happens is our buyers are able to pay more to the sellers.
Got it.
Voila. I mean, it's just math, right? If they're not paying 2% or 5% to me, they can pay that to the sellers. And so,
got it. It's just a more transparent transaction. That's all that it is.
And
right?
it is
it
so
just makes
important.
it super transparent. Yeah.
Super transparent. And now here's the other transparency that is very disruptive. I'm sure somebody's going to take this entire clip and crucify me for it, but it is what it is. So here, I'm okay because it is the truth. It is real. And I believe in transparency in relationships. And transparency in relationships will take you very far in this industry and in life, period. And so here's how the math works. I'm going to call it 10%. So say we charge 10% to a seller. Well, what happens is with that 10%, first off, they get a lot for that 10%, but I'm just talking numbers right now. I'm in charge of going and finding you the perfect buyer for you.
Right.
And then I'm in charge of negotiating the best terms, okay, and the highest amount, right, to get you the best new home.
Well, you're incentivized because your fee is on the sell, not on the buy. So it makes sense for you to, okay.
Now, here's what happens. We have 95 buyers, right? Well, we, once we got past 60 or 70 strong buyers, because we vet all of our buyers, they're legitimate, they're good. We have contracts with them. After we got past 60, it started to become harder to find some buyers. Okay.
Why is that?
So, because there's only so many in the market.
I see what you mean.
Buying.
Okay, gotcha.
These are sophisticated groups that will pay top dollar, essentially, right? So it got harder for us. So what did we do? I basically went out to my entire network. Remember, I told you that I put over 400 speakers on stage And then I was having these events that were like the Grammy Awards of dentistry, where I would have like literally 50 plus major influencers in one room. Well, guess what? I have relationships with all those people. So as soon as I turn on the light of, hey, I'm going to be selling practices nationally and doing it the right way, the floodgates open. So, but important to understand, I'm paying whoever found me that buyer after buyer 60, I'm paying them 10% for finding me that buyer.
10% of your fee or 10% of the whole sale? Of 10% of your fee. So 1% of the sale of the company, of the practice.
Basically, yes.
If your fee's 10%. Okay.
Yeah, so I'm paying them 10% of my personal fee. Okay. Very important.
You're building a network of people who find leads for you, basically.
Exactly. So 10% of my fee on the first buy and 5% for the lifetime of that buyer buying. And if that buyer ever turns into a seller and I sell the group, they're going to get 10% for that too.
Okay. So you're creating, you're protecting your network as to basically continue to send opportunities to you.
Exactly.
That's
now
great.
on the other side, if somebody finds me a seller, okay, let's make an example, Adrian. If there's a dentist who's like, oh my God, I love what Elijah had to say, I'm interested in working with them, and we sign a dentist, even from this podcast, from any stage, from anywhere, I am giving the seller 10% of I'm giving the referral 10% of my commissions.
Right.
Okay. Why? Well, I wouldn't have met them if it wasn't for them. That's just what it is.
No, it's huge.
It's full. It's called full transparency. But if they know that out of the gate, everything's okay. But there's another 10%. Okay. Now let's talk about this. I have 95 buyers and I have hundreds of private practice dentists. However, that's another part of the podcast on who pays what. But those 95, let's say none of them work. It's a really hard office to sell. I will then tap a couple of other massive networks, and let's just say they could be social media groups. They could be big influence. There's just so many. I tap a massive network, and I'll say, hey, if you can just find me a buyer, I'll give you 10%. So now I may have to give a 10% to them. Now, let's just say that it doesn't work. Okay, I still don't have a buyer. Here's what is not told. Is another disruptive part. What is not told is that brokers work with other brokers. Okay?
Right.
But not going to tell you. I'm going to tell you. Right? So let's say we still can't find it from our network. We're going to reach out to another brokerage firm or multiple. And we're going to do whatever it takes to sell the practice to the right buyer, period. However, this is what's not told. We pay between 20 and a maximum of 50%
of your commission?
Of my commission to the other broker.
Got it.
Absolutely.
But none of this is all coming out of your commissions. None of it's being added on. It's not hidden anywhere. Okay.
Not hidden. It's not being added on. It's real, and people don't know it. And it shouldn't be a secret, but since it's been a secret so long, I'm coming and shaking everything up saying, here's the real truth. Who cares who's getting paid what? This is your fee. This is my process. And this is ultimately my attempt to get you the right buyer for your practice that has the best terms and quality of life post-sale.
Yeah. So your seller, basically you sit down with your seller and it's like, I'm just going to use the 10% example, is you're going to pay 10%. That's it. And I'm going to be transparent on the entire process.
Yes.
So, and how do they know you're being honest?
Well, number one, I got a freaking ridiculous reputation. I've built my entire career on honesty, never burning a bridge, serving the industry. Can you ever know if somebody's being honest? I mean, dang, that would jeopardize my career would blow up.
Do you have when doctors call us and they want to buy our marketing services, it's like, hey, I'd like some referrals,
Yes.
They hadn't heard about us or whatever, or they're not sure if they want to start spending money. Is that appropriate in your business to give referrals of previous deals?
Love to talk about this. Okay. So let's start with, and you're asking all of the uncomfortable questions early, which is good because we get that out the way. So selling a dental practice could be one of the most private and confidential pieces of information ever done in your entire career. I signed an NDA with the sellers. Many sellers don't want their team to know. They never want their patients to know.
Yep.
And it's very highly classified information. Okay. And so,
well, you're
here's
messing
what
with
happens.
their life.
Their whole life.
This is their life's work, man. You don't want to screw this up.
Exactly. And what happens is oftentimes there are different types of sales. So I'm going to tell you a very common sale where this is a perfect, I'm going to answer your question. I'm not skirting it. I'll hit it head on. But what happens is that there's something called a JV sale. It's a very normal type of sale. What happens
Joint
is,
venture?
let's just say you have joint venture sale. Yep. Let's just say you have an uber successful practice. Okay. You got, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million in collections or way more. By the way, we're seeing practices anywhere from the 1 point something, call it 2 million, all the way up to 150 million. Okay. These are practices that we're working with as a broker. And what happens is you have a JV relationship. So let's just say hypothetically your practice is a $5 million practice and you want to take some chips off the table, right? You want to you never know. You could get hit by a car. You could end up with a health issue. Anything could happen. And also you happen to hate running the business of dentistry, hiring and firing, right?
Yeah.
Revenue cycle management, the issues that are just part of running a business.
Yeah.
And you're like, you know what? I want somebody else to come in and run the business for me. Okay. Well, you call that an opportunity. It's a JV relationship where they buy 60% of your practice and you keep 40% of your practice. Okay. You also keep ability to make decisions. In some instances, you also keep your name on the front door. In that instance, which is very regular, a dentist is not going to want to talk to you about selling their practice was, is, etc. They don't even want their patients to know. And they told their team, I got a partner. I'm bringing in a partner. They're not even telling their team they sold some of the time. And it's 100% okay. And so the short answer of your question is absolutely. We have a lot of people that are referrals, that offices we've sold. But the long answer is it's actually like when we put out, say, press releases, or let's just say we do a podcast or something like that. That is information that the doctor can pick up of how's the process. Did they regret selling or they did not regret selling? Best thing they did or worst thing? All of those details is like information that we've put out. But every single month, we get 50 to 100 inbound leads and referrals. Okay.
Right.
And so if I were to hire a doctor full time, I still couldn't pay him enough money to pick up the phone constantly and say, hey, will you talk to this person considering selling their practice? It's a hard ask, but if we do everything and it gets down to like, okay, I need some references. Okay, no problem. However, I didn't tell you how much they made. I didn't tell you the percentage of their agreement. You can't ask it's too private. It's too confidential.
Right.
So hopefully that answers.
No, that does. But basically, just to kind of like put a bow on this, is that you're totally willing to give referrals or recommendations from previous deals, but you're constrained because if it's a JV deal, that doctor that's in the middle of a JV deal probably does not want anybody to know that they're in the middle of a JV deal. So there are some limitations to revealing information about previous deals that you have to be cognizant that the doctor who's potentially going to use your services needs to be cognizant of. Okay.
Yes.
Fair enough.
And further to continue on that conversation of a JV deal, it's important for the doctors that are listening to know that there are multiple types of deals. So one of them is a joint venture deal. Okay. Let's just say you sell 60%, you keep 40. Could be you sell 30 or 70%, keep 30. Okay. Now, another type of deal is called a combination deal. Combination deal is where you sell 60%, okay? But then maybe you take 10% of your ownership, put it into the holding company.
Got it.
Okay? So you put it into the holding company. That holding company is like the mothership, okay, that owns all the practices. And then you keep 30%. That'd be like a combination deal. Another deal is like 100% buyout, okay? So that's something that like Heartland Dental is known for, 100% buyout. Oak Dental Partners, 100% buyout. In that situation where there's 100% buyout, and in many situations, there is something called an earn out. Okay. This is extremely important. Let's just say that your practice were to sell, let's make an easy number. The practice were to sell for $2 million, all right? There is never a time that you're going to get the $2 million up front. And it's very important to understand this.
Now, do doctors think that that's the way that it works, though?
Many doctors
they're getting their $2 million check and they're walking? They think that's what's going to happen.
They think that's what's going to happen. And that is one of the biggest mistakes. Doctors wait too late to sell, not realizing that most people that are going to pay you the max are going to want you to stay for 3 to 5 years. And if you want to stay longer, that's better. But they're going to want you to stay for 3 to 5 years. And they're going to want you to maintain the current collections that are at that practice. So your production, your collection as a doctor, it can't drop. Yeah. So a misconception is like, I'm about to sell my practice. I'm going to put the pedal to the metal. Worst mistake you could ever make. Worst. Because you're going to need to keep that pedal to the metal for 3 to 5 more years. So what happens is they construct something called an earnout, and there's many different variations of it, but let's just say it's a 3-year earnout. Sometimes the end of year 1, year 2, year 3, you could be paid, or at the end of 3 years. As long as you maintain those numbers, you're actually going to be able to turn around and get the rest of that money. So say you're given 70% up front. They're holding back 30%. They may give 10% each year. Okay. Yeah. They may give less each year. They may give it at the end, but ultimately you're not getting your money up front. And why is that? Well, they don't want you to just stop working. You are the biggest asset in that practice.
Yeah. Yeah. You're the brand.
You're the biggest asset. And a lot of times that is overlooked or not known. And when I say that, don't just put your foot on the gas pedal. That is not smart. So like for us, we advise, so say I get 100 inbound leads and referrals. 90% of them we're saying, nope, don't sell. You're not ready. You're leaving money on the table. And we say, listen, let's work on your practice. No charge, by the way, because we know all the consultants in the industry. We know all the levers to pull in the whole industry. So we're saying, do this X, Y, Z, and it's actually going to make you an additional $500,000 or $1 million, or it could be way more than that. And so we're saying focus on the bottom line. Let me just make an example. Right now in your practice, hypothetical, let's just say you do 20 Invisalign cases a month. That's a big practice, maybe 6 million or more in revenue, but it happens. Okay. Well, 20 Invisalign cases. Well, let's say Invisalign charges you something like $2,000 per aligner. Okay.
Right.
This isn't a knock on Invisalign. It just happened to be a math problem.
Yeah, gotcha.
Now let's talk about a company such as OrthoFX. Let's just say you get a crazy deal, and I don't know OrthoFX numbers. I'm just making this up. Let's say OrthoFX is $1,500. Okay, not $2,000. Still same end result.
Yeah,
that is product. Great product. That is a $500 per case lift. Okay, so $500 times 20. If my math is right, that's 10,000, and then you multiply that by 12 months.
And then you multiply it by the multiple.
I'll get there. Yep. Okay. Exactly. Right. Yep.
Gotcha.
So you've saved $120,000 that year. Okay. Now there's something that's called EBITDA. Maybe we're getting to that, and I think you alluded to it right there. Without going into EBITDA, but I have to explain this to make my point. You're paid on a multiple of EBITDA. And by the way, my business partner has the EBITDA handbook. Download it for free. You can put a link somewhere. It's on the website, etc.
I'll put it in the description.
Yeah. Yep. So imagine EBITDA as this is your net profit. So let's just say 20% is a normal EBITDA margin. If you're a $2 million practice, that means that your EBITDA at 20% is at $400,000. Okay. Now here's how you calculate your practice. You're going to take that $400,000 and multiply it by a number. That's going to give you the total amount that your practice is worth. That number could be, if you're selling it to a private practice dentist, it could be 3, could be 4. If you're looking at groups and DSOs, Most likely it's going to start at 5. Okay. It could go up to let's just say, I want to be conservative because I don't like to over. Right?
Don't, by the way, you cannot contractually hold Elijah to the number that he's mentioning now. Go ahead.
That's what, exactly. But I'm being realistic, which is what a lot of people do not do. Let's just say, make that top number a 7. Make that top number a 7. Conservatively, you're at a 6. So let's do the conservative. You're at a 6 times multiple. Okay. Yeah. So if you had $400,000 in EBITDA,
2.4 million.
It's a $2.4 million practice. Is what that practice could be valued at, or you could get. Now, I just turned one lever. I changed your aligner company, and I brought you in an additional $120,000 to go straight to the bottom line. 120,000 times 6 is roughly 700,000, 680 to be exact, I think.
No, I think it's like 720 or something like that.
720.
Anyway, about $700,000.
700 in your pocket for making one swift adjustment. Now, let me go to, I'm making a lot of people money on this right now, by the way. When I say your sellers listening right now, you're putting money in your pocket. It was worth we've been on here 40 minutes. So now let's make the easiest switch I've ever seen. The merchant services platform. Holy smokes.
Yeah,
it is
totally.
It is 100% legal now to pass those fees on to your patients. I want you to look at your bills, your grocery bill, your food bill, any of these bills that are coming out. You'll see a merchant service fee. It's called
you call it a convenience fee. That's what you call it.
Yes, you call it what you want. Point is you can pass it to them. Now let's do math. $2 million practice. Okay, let's just say you're somewhere around $50,000 in credit card processing fee. Okay,
which is 2.5%. About 2.5% is what you've got to run that number at. Yeah,
something like that. So basically, $50,000 is what you were paying. Now you're charging the patient $50,000.
Yep.
$50,000 now goes straight to your bottom line. 50 times 6 is $300,000. By the way, I can tell you guys my address if you want to cut me some of that check that you're getting from this podcast.
No, wait, don't I get a referral fee though? Just make sure you send me my 1%.
Right. So, but you hear this is simple math. I just made you $1 million from from two small things.
Two little things. Yeah.
And I can go on and on. We have an entire 10 box checklist of all these things to add to the bottom line. So when you think about selling, think about calling us not when you're ready to sell, but even before then. Now, 2 or 3 years ahead of when you want to sell. Yeah. Yeah. Call 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. Conversations are free. And this is what we do. We advise. We're advisors. We help people to prepare their practice for the largest possible exit and the best exit. Now, it's super important to understand this. Most time when people call, their EBITDA margin is too low, or their collections, they need to increase it. And that's a good time to call. Does it work if you call me when you're ready to sell? It can. Yeah. You may be ready already because you run a really tight ship, right? But more than likely, you're calling too late if you're already ready to sell right now. Let's get you prepared. Important to know, though, those numbers, right? So let's just say if we're selling a practice, it takes us on average minimum 4 months, and that's very realistic, and up to 7 months. If something happens at the end, it could take 9 months or even a year. It's possible, but 4 to 7 months is the average. Now, let's just say we clean you up for 3 months. Okay, so we clean you up for 3 months, and then it takes, let's just call it, another 6 months to sell you. That's 9 months.
Okay.
If you listen to the stuff that we say to fix, right now, by the time it comes to sell, here's what groups are going to ask. They're going to ask for your numbers and your past couple of months. Okay. And if you took your foot off the steering wheel, or the gas pedal rather, they're going to do something called a retrade. A retrade is if you were going to get 2 million, they're going to try to give you 1.7 or 1.6 because your numbers are what they used to be.
Wait. So what you're saying is that you come to an agreement. The doctor's already said, we're going to sell. We found the buyer. You come to an agreement, but 4 to 7 months occur before the transaction finalizes. And you're saying they're going to look at those last 2 or 3 months and they're going to try and gouge you, basically. You're going to say, hey, you're coming up, you pulled your foot off the pedal, your collections are down, we're not giving you $2 million now, we're going to give you 1.7. And frankly, that's a shitty situation because the doctor's head is already like out of the picture. They're like, I'm out, or this is happening. So at the closing, when they drop that on you, that's got to piss a lot of doctors off.
It does, and that has been the case in the past. But here's what we do to prevent that. Okay, while most brokers are just doing the sale. Okay, they're doing the sale and negotiating the best offers, and I actually do believe that majority of brokers in the space are good, right? So I'm not saying they're bad, but here's the difference: we're advising them the journey along the way. So what happens is really what the buyer cares about the most, besides the 3 years, which we'll get into the quality of earnings here in a minute, but what they care the most about is the rolling 12. Rolling 12 is the past
12 months.
The past 12 months. So they're going to look at your rolling 12 right before you sell. Let's just call it 30 days, 60 days out. And they're going to say, it could be fine if your numbers are the same, but if your numbers go down or your EBITDA margin drops, they're going to say, hey, we need to look at this. We need to sharpen our pencils a little bit. And they're going to offer you something low. It's called a retrade. Right. It is very normal. Now, as somebody who's advised you along the way, the same thing is going to happen, but it's going to be the opposite. We're going to say, well, listen, that EBITDA margin is actually up $100,000. So we want to retrade because
2.2.
Yes, we want to retrade at $100,000 at a 6 times multiple. That's $1.2 million more that we want to have added to this, right? And
I get it.
It is very it's out of the box. It wasn't happening often, and they come to us and retrade. So why can't we? So we are often going back and saying, well, we want to have a retrade because according to the rolling 12. We actually are up $120,000. And so the purchase price should actually be 3.2 million, not 3 million, right? And there'll be some negotiation back there. But the point is, fix the things that are going to affect your bottom line to grow your net profit and your EBITDA. Don't put your foot on the gas pedal necessarily. And all of a sudden, you're going to have to keep that foot on the gas pedal. You're going to have to keep that work up.
I've got a question. And yeah, okay. So here's my question. With most brokerage firms, how are these brokerage firms organized? Meaning, do they have an executive team and then a bunch of sales people? And the salespeople need to hit quotas? Or is it structured that most brokerage firms, the owners are the ones that are managing the deal process? Here's the reason I'm asking. Okay. But if you contextually look at this conversation, the ongoing theme here is that you need a broker that is, number one, incentivized for the highest sell. Okay. But you also need a broker that isn't incentivized incorrectly by hitting numbers. Okay. Mm-hmm. So for example, like you're talking about all this effort to get this deal done with the your client, the seller, being your most valuable relationship and asset, and you're trying to protect their interests. But I could see a world where there are brokers who are like, for lack of a better word, fuck it, I'll just get whatever I can get and move on to the next deal, right? Mm, so the amount of effort that you're putting into coaching and training and getting the seller to get the point where they're getting the largest value, in a sales role, there's a point at where the salesperson goes, there's diminishing returns. I really don't need to put this much effort in. I can just, I'll sell for 2 million. I won't really try and push it to 2.2. I'll still get a big commission. I'll move on. So I want you to, and I don't want you to say, we don't do it that way. I want you to help me and the audience understand what are the incentives behind, underneath that consultant relationship or the brokerage relationship that really takes that broker all the way to the end of the deal to get every penny? Like, what are you looking for as a seller to make sure you're working with the right broker?
Absolutely. So number one, most important piece, I want to address that. Do we have, is the owner of the brokerage firm doing the negotiating or whatever you may say? And then you have a bunch of salespeople. So let me just first give you the layout of my team, because I can tell you no brokerage firm is created equally or the same. But I'll give you the layout of our team. I will also confidently sit here and say that our team, that a normal person would be called a sales team, we don't have a sales problem. So we don't have a sales team, right? We have advisors, and we, on our team that are using their discernment to correct the right sellers for us, because we have so many inbound referrals. We don't have to have somebody.
But let me pin you down here if I can.
Yep.
Are your advisors, do they have, is their compensation model based on closing certain numbers of deals, or is the compensation structure built on trying to get the most value out of one particular deal? You see what I'm saying? Because
yes,
you
absolutely.
that, right?
I do. So no, they are not currently compensated on getting a certain amount of deals. They are highly compensated individuals as their salary, essentially. So their job is not to close a high amount of deals. And I will go then after I explain the team and say that we are a boutique white glove brokerage firm. We do not believe in bringing in the masses, which is why if we have 50 to 100 deals, 10% of those deals is the deals that we'll take on. We want to take the right ones on, because the amount, it's not a volume play for us, essentially. It's working with the right individuals that we feel are very sellable, easy to work with. And by the way, a lot of those people we have been advising along the journey until they can sell. Now let me address the next thing that you mentioned is who's on the team. So number one, first and foremost, I negotiate 0 of the deals. Me personally, I'm the CEO of the company. Okay. I do not negotiate any of the deals. I'll tell you what I do. What I do is I build relationships with the buyers and the sellers, and I'm speaking all over the country, educating on this entire process, right? But I am not negotiating the deal. So on our team, we have a couple of very strong individuals that have an extensive background in the mergers and acquisition space. So Jason Brown is one of them with over 25 years in the M&A space. Now, something that's interesting about Jason Brown is Jason Brown, not only does he have 25 years, but in the past 4 years, he also worked with an organization called Oak Dental Partners, in which he was a buyer.
Yeah, and that's one of your buyer groups you mentioned earlier.
Yep. Okay. So he's a buyer. So he went from 20 locations to 81 locations in 4 years, and he was the one on the other side. So he knows what it feels like to be a buyer and everything that the buyer is looking for, and went through individual brokers for each and every single one of those deals. So that's him that we have. And then we have Austin Hunter. Austin Hunter actually earned his stripes for a large DSO in 2020 to I think 24. And he did diligence, which is finding all the details in the forensic accounting for over 1,000 deals. And so that is who's in the background after the representation agreement is signed. That is who is in the background doing all of the negotiations and discussing terms, et cetera, on the actual negotiations.
Are they, so in the process, so, and I'm asking this as a kind of from an executive level, understanding who's on your team and what their expectations are. So in your company, the people on your team who are negotiating the deals are your advisors, correct?
That's right.
Okay.
No, that's not right. They're not the advisors. The people that are the advisors are the people who you would say they're in sales. And I'm like, they're not in sales because we don't have a sales issue, right? They're the person that's signing the representation agreement. They're also the people that are sending them to different resources to grow.
So they're more consulting. They're more consulting and prepping them for sale. Okay, so who's doing the negotiation on you if it's not you? Is it
Jason?
James?
Jason Brown and Austin Hunter are doing the negotiations themselves. Now, we also have 2 full-time attorneys on our team that are a part of our team that's what they do. They're in these deals. Essentially, they've got a ton of experience. They both have their LLM. For those of you who are familiar with law, it's the highest level, but it's very important to note this. They're not the attorney for you. They're a part of our team. Okay.
Gotcha.
So a lot of people don't know this and they get hit with it at the very end, which is important to know at first. Who are you going to pay as a part of your deal? Well, number one, you're going to pay your broker. Number two, you're going to pay your attorney. Okay. The attorney fees can range anywhere from, let's just call it a minimum of $12,000 all the way up to $35,000 for a transaction, but you don't have to pay it to the end. But it is important to know that comes out of the fee. A lot of people don't disclose that. Now, there's one other individual in our process that is charged that you will be paid or you will be paying for. And that is called a company who does a quality of earnings, which I believe is something that you did want to talk about.
Yeah.
They are paid as well. And for a single location, we've negotiated a fee that normally would be around $10,000 down to $3,500 when it comes to what do you pay.
This is a separate independent company that you contract with.
Exactly.
They're not on your team. Okay, gotcha.
They're not on our team. We're not paid anything from them. We've negotiated a strong deal. And essentially, you can look at them as forensic accountants. And one of the major issues that I see, with CPAs, that dentist comes to me and I tell them in my contract it states you must get a quality of earnings done. Okay, and that has to be done from one of our third-party companies. They're not on our team.
They don't work for us.
Company.
Yeah.
They come back and say, well, can my CPA do it? My CPA says they can do it. Absolutely not. That is the most ridiculous ask. Never ask that, because your CPA will most likely say, yeah, I can do it. I can do that. No problem. Absolutely not. It is going to make us look silly and destroy our reputation. And it is going to take your timeline and push it way back.
Is it because their accounts are usually, way off on EBITDA numbers and projections, because they don't have an incentive to be kind of necessarily like doing forensic accounting, looking at what's being sold right now. So they might give the doctor like a number that's just ridiculous. Is that the issue?
It's a lot of issues, but the first one is that if it's your CPA, they now have a personal interest in making it so you win. Okay. And right. They don't know all of the details. Okay. And what happens, and they also don't know all of your add backs or what add backs actually are when it comes to what your true EBITDA is. So don't use your CPA. It's not an option to use your CPA, but I think that brings us to like a extremely important piece, which is valuations.
Elijah, before you jump into that really quick, maybe this question actually leads into valuations, but for me as a doctor, I'm imagining here, if I get on with you and I'm going through this process and you tell me not to use the CPA that I've used for years and years and years that I have a relationship with, that's going to come off like, why does he not want me to use my CPA?
Yep.
It's sketchy, dude. So how do you, I understand why you do it.
Yes.
But it's a trust breaking kind of like requirement. So how do you handle that?
Here's how I handle that. So basically your CPA, they could be a tax strategist for you. They are your bookkeeper. They plan for your taxes. What your CPA is not an expert on is mergers and acquisitions, and they're not a forensic accountant. They don't do quality of earnings. It's no different than me saying, go to an orthodontist, don't see it from your GP. Even if they claim super GP, your reputation, your time, our reputation, our time is on the line. And 99% of the time, your normal CPA will always get it wrong. Now, that doesn't mean we want you to fire your CPA. It just means that we want your CPA to work with the expert who is going to go through every single line item with a fine-tooth comb and to get you the true value. Because I'm going to tell you why.
Okay.
Go ahead.
No, so sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but so in a situation where you're talking to a doctor, they want their CPA involved. You can't say,
Yes.
just ignore your CPA. You'll have their CPA work with
Yes.
your friends. Okay, that's fine. That's
Yes.
totally fine. You just don't want the CPA on an island saying your company's worth your practice is worth $10 million and it's worth 5, and not able to sit down with the CPA and go, you're freaking off here, and this is why.
Exactly.
So you'll have them involved in the process, but just not on an island.
Very involved, and unfortunately, some of them still do sit off on an island because they're extremely slow to get us all the information that they need.
I sense a little bit of sarcasm and frustration there. Anyway, keep going.
Yes. All
right, let's talk about valuations. That's where we're going.
Valuations. Yep. So valuations are extremely important. They are one of the reasons why deals blow up oftentimes. A valuation often is done by a broker. Okay. And they're going to look at your numbers. They're going to look at your books, and they're going to give you, this is what your practice is worth. Many times that valuation is off. Sometimes it's on, but many times it's off. And what happens is the broker brings the valuation to the buyers and say, this is the value of the practice. Okay. Now, this is where it gets interesting. A sophisticated buyer, an institutionalized buyer, a buyer that cannot be wrong, is going to do a quality of earnings on your practice. Okay. What is a quality of earnings? A quality of earnings is they're going to look at your past 3 years. They're going to do the forensic accounting. They're going to know.
They're going to go deep into where your money's being spent, everything.
You're going to go deep. Now, they're not the IRS, so it's okay. For those of you who are like, oh my gosh, I got all these personal expenses. Guess what? Your personal expenses are called add backs. You're going to get those added back to your total number. It is completely okay. This isn't the IRS here. It is, it is totally okay. They're called add backs, and it's called your adjusted EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, amortization, and depreciation.
Sure.
It's so ultimately what happens is that the buy side, they cannot be wrong. They have to know your numbers, and they have to know the forensic accounting. And so essentially their number is right. The valuation that was given to you oftentimes is way wrong. Let's just say a broker, charges you $10,000 to get a valuation. All right. Well, guess what? They got to bring you there to the buyer. The buyer's going to get the real number. Yeah. So what happens is oftentimes they said that your practice is worth 2.5 or say it's worth 3 million. Okay. Well, the forensic accounting was done and they know the actual net profit or the EBITDA, even with the add backs, your practice is really only worth 1.7. Now that puts them at a major disadvantage, which is why a lot of times that brokers catch a bad name in our industry, because they set the buyer up for complete failure. And now the seller is very upset because they already counted their chips. They know the beach house they're getting. They know the new car that they're getting. But it's just not real. And so, or they say the practice is worth $3 million from their valuation. Then guess what happens over here on this side? Over here on this side, the buyer comes in. The practice is actually worth 4.2. Guess what they're going to come back and say? $3 million.
$3 million.
I could give you 2.8. They're going to work. I'm going to make it 2.8 or 3 million. And this is why, and I will tell you, and this is coming straight from, this is buyers and bankers that tell me on a regular basis, there are only about 20% of brokers that are doing quality of earnings. This is another one I already know I'm going to get crucified for it, but it is what it is. 20% are doing quality of earnings. And the fact that they're doing a quality of earnings is because the buyer told them they need to go and get the quality of earnings. Okay.
Right.
And so, one last distinction. What we're doing is doing a quality of earnings light. That's what they're having done. Quality of earnings light. The seller. We're having a seller do it. Okay. So, or it's called an LQE or a quality of earnings light. Now, the buyers are doing a full quality of earnings. It costs substantially more. What is the difference? Very simple. Bank statements. So they're going to match your bank statements with all the rest of the financial data. They're going to look at your QuickBooks. They're going to look at your practice management software. All they're going to do is match the bank statements so they add up. But we are extremely confident with our number, and we're not negotiating on what the total number is, that the valuation. We're not negotiating that. We're negotiating two things. Sorry. Here's the adjusted EBITDA, or the net profit after add backs.
Right.
What is the multiple of EBITDA? Okay. That's what we're negotiating.
Yeah.
Multiple of EBITDA. And then the second thing, which is the most important, more than that number, is the terms of the agreement. How long do you have to work? How much cash do you get at close? What do you have the clinical autonomy on, what lab you're using, or this and that? What is allowed? How many vacation days you get? What happens if you leave them? All of the stuff. Those are the terms. But it's important to know that when we come with a quality of earnings, we're negotiating a multiple on EBITDA, which makes it easy for us come month 7 or 9 to say, oh, you guys want to have a rolling 12? Okay. Great. Here's your numbers. We want to retrade because we're up 120,000 on EBITDA.
Right.
And we want that same multiple of EBITDA, which is, let's call it 6. So you owe us some money, more money.
I love it. That's great. It's such a complicated, like nasty, almost not nasty, you're not nasty, but the whole process of like selling your practice. Like we've gone through, we get reached out to by, I don't know, every day by some PE company wanting to buy my social practice. We've looked into a few of those, and it's just like such a freaking shit show trying to come to, like, the whole process is just very kind of anxiety ridden for the seller. So what you've described as a more transparent process, right?
Yep.
I think is obviously necessary. You guys wouldn't be doing well. So I think it definitely rings true in the industry for sure.
Yes, absolutely. And I think I also want to give this to the listeners. Some of you will be like, I don't want to use a broker. I'm doing it myself. Like, okay, but let me just give you a little bit of armor, we'll say, so you can protect yourself. Number one, you need to, in both scenarios, with a broker or without one, get a specific mergers and acquisitions attorney. Okay, an M&A attorney that does this, that knows this is not something you have your friend do it or your brother do it for free. You need to get an M&A attorney. That's the first step, number one. Step number two, go ahead and spend the $10,000 on getting a quality of earnings light. Now, let me go ahead and give you some different, I'll tell you the companies transparently that we use. We use CLA, we use Bright Balance, and we use Tower Financial. Okay. Those are 3 different firms that I would highly recommend. Okay. Now, that's the second bit of advice I can give you. Next is the person that is trying to buy your practice, understand they're going to get a good deal due to arbitrage. And I'll go through that in a minute, but do your due diligence, reach out to people that they have bought from. Okay. And ask them how life is post-transaction, post-sale.
Yeah. How'd it go?
How did it go? And it's important to do that, to do the due diligence, to know how it went. If you're going to go by yourself, but don't accept the EBITDA or the number that they're giving you. They're in the business of buying businesses. Now, there is a lot of good groups and practices out there, right? And some DSOs are terrible, but I'm going to tell you, if you've seen one DSO, you've seen one DSO. They're all different. That's why I say to hire the expert who can navigate it, already knows the relationship, has a good relationship with them. But if you're going to do it by yourself, those are the checklists that you got to do, and don't wait till it's too late. One last thing. I know some of you are like, well, we talked a lot about DSOs and groups on this call, but not about private practice dentists. Well, I'm going to tell you, I stand for dentistry as a whole. Whoever you want to sell to is up to you. The groups and DSOs sell higher or more. But the issue I see common is there's a lot of groups that get up to, or practices that get up to, let's just call it 2 million, 3 million, 4 million, 5 million. And as a matter of fact, we just have somebody recently that's at 5.5 million at sign. And they say the words, I'll never sell to a DSO, a group, or private equity. I'm going to tell you the issue with that. You are too big for the most part once you reach about 2 million.
You're pricing yourself out of the market. That's what you're doing.
You can't sell unless you give it away. Because if you're at 2 million, I'm going to tell you what, that dentist that you want to sell to, they have student loans, most likely. They just got a new family and they have a house loan, most likely. Now you want them to buy your practice and potentially your real estate.
Yeah.
You know, a $2 million loan is generally not happening. You can't get the money for it. And so you work your butt off and you have this mindset of, I'm not going to ever sell to a DSO. I'm here to tell everybody, like, newsflash, you're probably not going to be able to sell your practice. Yeah. And the people they
don't have enough money.
There's just not enough money.
Too much. Yeah. You have to go to a private equity or, yeah. So.
Yes, absolutely.
Dude, that's awesome. You could talk about this all day. We've gone over an hour and I'm thinking, shit, I got about 30 more questions that I want to ask him, but I can't keep going, dude.
Yeah, hey, I'm here. If you,
we'll do it again for sure. Elijah, I just want to say one last thing. I think one of the most important things that I've learned in business, you said earlier on, and it's not really what we talked about, but we kind of danced around it, which is in business, if you want to be successful, success is not built on how much money you make. It's built on your relationships. There's just no question about it. I've been long enough on this planet and I've gone bankrupt before. I've lost businesses, right? And where my head was at in previous organizations that didn't do well versus we're doing really well with my social practice is that I changed my focus from trying to make money to building relationships. And it just pays off, dude. It just pays off. And you have built your career on that too. You kind of mentioned that at the beginning. So I just wanted to echo that. And I wanted to just say every time we've met, I know we haven't got to know each other super well, but when we've met, I've always felt super welcome. And you're an open book and you're very trustworthy. So for those that are listening, my experience with Elijah, although I haven't gone through this, sales or the dental pitch brokerage, has been that you're a stand-up guy. And I appreciate it, man. I appreciate the relationship that we have, and I'm grateful that you came on the podcast. So thank you.
Thank you. Yes, I appreciate it as well. And I'll just kind of end like this. And I say it often, my bank account is not the biggest bank account in the world or the biggest bank account in many rooms that I'm in. However, my relationship bank account is bigger than most rooms combined. Yeah. And it's because of how I treat people and how I've treated people for years. That is the most important. And do you mind if I give just a very, very quick plug on my nonprofit? Is that possible?
Please. Yeah, absolutely. Go ahead.
There's a why behind every entrepreneur, behind most entrepreneurs. Mine, frankly, it's not dentistry. I happen to be good at it. I happen to have good relationships, but mine is actually kids. I have been a motivational speaker for high school kids since I've been 15 years old. I'm currently 38, and I have this gift. I was given the ability to get on stage and tell my story, and I have kids that will line up in long lines to take a picture, get my autograph, get my book signed, or give me a hug. And the kids that give me this very strong hug and don't let go, those kids actually, they whisper something to me, and they tell me that I was speaking to them, and I am not going to go home tonight and commit suicide because of the words that you said on the stage. And so my gift is I was able to give kids the gift of life. And I took that to a whole nother level and created something called Motivational Concerts. And that's a nonprofit organization that I volunteer for as the vice president. And Motivational Concert, I put between 5 and 10 high schools and one football stadium. And nice. And this is the reason why I went to Scratch Academy, really, to become a DJ.
Bring the DJ back in.
And that's the reason. And this September, I was able to save 6 kids from committing suicide. It's a blessing. That's why I'm here on this earth. I'll be doing 5 of them in the next year and a half, all over the world, from Kenya to Hawaii to here in the States. And any way that anybody can be a part of that in any capacity, I'd love to bring you with me, or to figure out how you could be involved with it. But it is something that I'm very passionate about, and know that I'm more than business. I'm all about kids, and I wanted everybody to know that. And thank you for giving me the space to mention that, Adrian.
Absolutely. That's fantastic. Love it, dude. Thanks for coming on. Appreciate you.
Yes.
Thanks for listening to Bite Size Podcast. Tune in to stay up to date with everything dental AI and tech